Kirby Smart and the Dogs are going to have a very, very good defense during the 2024 season, but I've got my eye on a few defenders that I think are really going to surprise some people. They may not start this year, but by the end of the year, I think you're going to look at these defenders that I'm going to talk about just a second and say, wow, that guy was better than I thought. Wow, that guy played a little bit more than I thought. Thankfully, Coach DeBray over on Dog Post in late May told me that these guys could really surprise me and possibly turn into some of the top young defenders, not only on Georgia's roster, but across the SEC. So I do think Georgia is deep. They're talented. It's going to be an outstanding defense, but there are a few guys that I think are ready to make a name for themselves. And I'm going to start in the secondary because Georgia plays a lot of defensive backs, right? Most of the time, there are 5 out there, but they don't want to get beat deep. They have an ego. They don't want quarterbacks to be able to throw the ball on them. And there's one cornerback that I think is going to have a really big season, and that's Daniel Harris. He'll be in his second year this fall. He's a kid from South Miami who plays with toughness, plays with swagger. He's one of the bigger defensive backs or cornerbacks on the roster. 6'2", 175. Could be 180 by the time the season rolls around. But tell you what, I really like the way this kid plays. He only played in 6 games last year, had 1 tackle against Florida State, but I like his potential and his ceiling a little bit more than Julian Humphrey, who right now I expect to be the other starting cornerback. But, I mean, Dalen Everett is slotted as the #1 cornerback, but I really like Daniel Harris. I'm not going to say he's going to start over Julian Humphrey, although he should get a really good look. Daniel Harris is not as fast as Julian Humphrey, but I think he's tougher. I think he's more physical. He's got some length to him. He runs well for his size, and I just think he's got that swagger that you really need, that killer instinct that you need to have at defensive back. Daniel Harris has it. I'm not sure Julian Humphrey has it. I'm not sure Dalen Everett has it, but Daniel Harris is a cornerback I think is going to be tough to keep off the field for very long. Before I get into the next player, which is another defensive back, collegebronze.com. Y'all hear me talk about it in every video because it is a 5-star product. And if you don't have a Father's Day gift yet, if you're still looking for a late graduation gift or a month-old Mother's Day gift, this is it. Get yours today with a discount. Promo code DOGPOST, DAWGPOST. Everything is in the description below. So right below this video, you can order yours, get the discount, look at the 5-star products, and get yours today. It's the best on the market. There's no Bulldog out there that is this detailed with the metal spikes that looks as good as this one does. Get yours today. You'd really be helping us out. Okay, Dan Jackson. Okay, I'm going to say it. Dan Jackson can play some football. And I know that he's a guy that people just forget about, but he can play. Let's not forget, he played in all 15 games in 2021. 4 years ago, this guy was playing in every single game in big moments down the stretch. When the Keely Ringo pick 6 happened, right? Biggest play of the game. Georgia needed to stop. Dan Jackson was out there. And yeah, he got lit up a little bit on that Keely Ringo return, but this is a former walk-on with great instincts, runs really well, can make a play on the ball. He had a big interception against South Carolina last year. I believe it was last year. Maybe it was 2 years ago. But he played in 7 games, not all 7 games. They played like 15 in 2022. But he was sidelined due to an injury, so he only played 7 games. But if Dan Jackson is out there, and you're a Georgia fan, I don't want you rolling your eyes or putting your head down or saying, what are they thinking? Why is this guy out there? This guy can play. And when you want to play 5 defensive backs a lot of the time, yeah, this guy who's been on the roster for 4 or 5 years now is going to get a look. I know everyone wants to see KJ Bolden. You're going to see him. He's going to start one day. You're going to see him this year. Janelle Aguero, same deal. But they need a new safety to play next to Malachi Starks, and they need a new star. Whether Dan Jackson wins one of those 2 jobs or Janelle Aguero or whoever, they're going to beat out some really good players. But Dan Jackson is a fantastic football player, right? And people are going to think I'm crazy, but this guy knows what he's doing, and he knows the playbook. He's got decent size. He runs really well. I like him as a player a lot. And he can also help on special teams. Dan Jackson might play more than you think or more than you want, but it's not bad that he's out there. He is a good player. At linebacker, Raulen Wilson. I'm going to tell this story real quick because not everyone watches every single video, unfortunately, so people may have missed this. But about a year and a half ago, maybe it was a year ago, I had a Georgia coach that I saw at a high school practice. He was watching at Target. I was there watching that same guy, but he was telling me about some of the freshmen. He said, yo, that Raulen Wilson kid that we signed at linebacker, he was better than any TCU linebacker we saw. Raulen Wilson just got to campus and was working with the team, helping them prepare for TCU in the national championship game. And apparently he was giving the offense some fits. They were like, who is this kid that should be in high school? Who is like 17, the youngest kid in this class. He's already on campus working with us. He's a good player. And that coach told me 6 months later, he said, preparing for TCU, they had a tougher time with that freshman Raulen Wilson than they did with any TCU linebacker than they saw in the game. He may not start because C.J. Allen is also really good, but Raulen Wilson is going to play. He was SEC all-freshman team last year, played in 12 games, made 1 start. That was against Florida State, 15 tackles. Had some, he wasn't perfect. There was a learning curve. He wasn't great. I think against Alabama in the SEC championship game, there was a running back kind of wheel route down the sideline. He was playing middle linebacker. The tight end came and bumped him on his route, purposefully to knock him off balance. And he didn't get to the running back in time. Easy touchdown. So it's those. He's still learning. He's still progressing. But he's fast. He's physical. He can cover. He can tackle. And he still has his best football still ahead of him. He's one of the youngest guys that will be in their second year. I think he still has NFL potential. The Georgia staff loved him. He committed to Michigan. They said, no, dude, you're not going to Michigan. You're going to come play for us. They kept pushing and pushing and pushing, and they ended up landing his commitment, getting him to sign. And again, he played a lot last year, probably too much. You don't want freshman linebackers to play as much as they did last year. And I don't think we're going to see freshman linebackers play as much as Raulen Wilson and C.J. Allen did last year. It's not ideal, but he's a really good player. And while he may not start, he might start here and there due to an injury, but you're going to see him on the field. He's a really good player, even though he may not be a starter. Another linebacker. We talked about Gabe Harris. I'm talking about Gabe Harris now. Meant to say, talked about Damon Wilson a lot. I think Damon Wilson could have a breakout year too. But Gabe Harris is really good. And props to Sam and Pimba for saying, you know what? I came in with these guys. They may be seeing the field a little bit more, maybe in a better position to make more plays than I am, but I'm going to stick around. And I'm going to play. I thought Sam and Pimba may have thought about jumping in the transfer portal, and maybe he did. But he didn't. Maybe he thought about it, is what I'm trying to say. But he never did. But Gabe Harris is a player. He played in 11 games last year, made 9 tackles, had a 10-yard tackle for a loss, written down in my notes against Florida State in a forced fumble. He made plays. He is explosive. 6'5", 250, really good athlete. He's got some link to him. He shows good burst off the line. He can shed blocks. But there were a couple plays last year where he flashed, and you're like, whoa. Who's that kid? Oh, that's Gabe Harris, the true freshman. You can see the potential that he brings. I think Damon Wilson could have a big year, but watch for Gabe Harris. Was a South Georgia kid, played at Thomas County Central, I believe. Then he was at IMG, then Valdosta, something. He went through several, high schools. It is what it is. That's the cool thing to do now. It's not cool to stay at one high school for 4 years. That's in the past. It's cool to go to 2 or 3 high schools now. That's what the kids are doing, hopping around, high school here, high school there. I don't get it, but it happens. But Gabe Harris is an outside linebacker that I think you're going to see a lot of this year. I'm going to give you one defensive lineman. There's a lot that I could have named here, but I'm going to go with Christen Miller, a guy who I think he did enter the transfer portal, then backed out, or I think there were reports that he was going to, but he never did. Either way, I think he was seriously looking at in the portal and going somewhere else, but he came back for a reason. And Georgia staff, and we've heard Kirby Smart say this, if you want to go, we'll replace you. But I do think they wanted Christen Miller back for a reason. It's because he's a good player. I saw a lot of him in high school. He played in 13 games last year as a reserve, made 14 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, and they're, like Gabe Harris, he flashed. And there were 2 or 3 plays off the top of my head that I can remember where he was in the backfield like that. If I can snap. There we go. Like that. And you're like, whoa, there's Christen Miller. Good for him. He's getting better and better. I think year 3 for him, 6'4", 305. I think they're going to need him to take another step forward in his progression. But he's a player that I think has the potential to be a true impact guy on the defensive line. Money year for him, right? Year 3, let's go. It's time to kick in. If you want to play at the next level, Lex Neville, right? The dyslexia, he needs a big year. And I think he has the potential to have it. He came back for a reason. He wants to see the field. I think he's going to see the field more than the average Georgia may realize. So those are just a few defenders that I think people need to be talking more about. Again, get your Bulldog today, collegebronze.com. All the info is in the description below. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you on the website.